If you are a bear on US equities, do you deploy instead into Europe, or do you deploy over here? What's the better risk-adjusted return?
Understood. On a peer basis, I think you've got to look at what the catalysts have been. And obviously part of the inflow into US equities or asset classes was very much dependent on US dollar appreciation, the expectation for that. So if you put that into perspective, we've had a prior catalyst where there was uncertainty for the euro and the eurozone in general in relation to the election side of things. Now France has kind of been put to bed. The next aspect is Germany, and France was a big aspect, and you're seeing that there's a lot more interest now going into Europe. So I think, from our point of view, it's still very much about the high liquidity in the global system, as well as basically FX rates on a spot basis, cross basis, is going to very much be the impetus in relation to how those capital flows and the movement for asset prices underneath. And it all comes back to what we still watch, which is central bankers. And even though they're not in the headlines, because it's still very much steady as she goes in relation to Europe, Japan and the US, I think that's really got to be where the next catalysts come from.
Let me just circle back on that comment there, Gav, on the FX markets. Do you think that we're moving into a more benign environment for the dollar and for Treasury yields as well? And if so, is that going to be positive for us?
Well, I think for our emerging markets, definitely, because the mango markets, the Southeast Asian markets in this region, the countries that run dual deficits, they're obviously financing in non-domestic currency, so it's US dollar. So obviously, while we're having some weakness in that, it's better for their funding costs. It's also decreasing capital outflows from those economies. So those markets should actually hold up fairly well. In relation to US dollar, we always, and we mentioned on this program a few times, had a leaning towards a weaker dollar than a stronger dollar, given Trump's policies of wanting to put America to work, increase employment and manufacturing, and you need to have comparative advantage for that. So therefore, you need to have a competitive dollar for exports.